Tulsa weather has a way of getting people's attention. From spring storms to winter ice, a lot of us grew up watching the radar and trusting the meteorologists who helped us make sense of it. For decades, one of those meteorologists has been James Aydelott, the last nearly 17 years as Fox 23's chief meteorologist. James grew up here in Tulsa, fascinated by the same severe weather he now tracks for a living. He's chased tornadoes, studied Doppler radar, and now even takes to the sky as a pilot. In this week's episode, I talked to James, my friend and co-worker, about the life of a chief meteorologist, the pressure, the science, and the misconceptions. We also talk about his love of flying, his work on a PhD, and what keeps him passionate about weather after all these years. This is One More Thing with Nathan Thompson. James Aydelott, thanks for joining us here on the podcast. You had to walk all the way down the hall to get here, right?
Yeah, and into the walk-in freezer, so we're good.
We like that kind of temperature here. Now, I've known you for a long time. We're coming up on 17 years now. I'm going to try to learn some new stuff about you in this podcast.
All right.
For people who don't know, you are a Tulsan. You grew up in Tulsa. You went to East Central High School. So you grew up here in Tornado Alley as a kid or as a younger person. Do you have memories before you even knew you were going to get into meteorology about, weather events here?
Oh, yeah. And I would date myself pretty clearly if I told you what those were. But June 8th, 1974, I was, preschool at that point. But yeah, we had bad tornadoes and flash floods. And then 76, we had bad flash floods. And of course, Memorial Day, flash flood, December 5th, 1975 tornado. Yeah, I can just run down the list of red letter Tulsa weather days. And they've all sunk in there, giving me some sort of scarring at least.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember, and I grew up in Bartlesville, so in the 80s we had the big flood there.
Yep.
I remember looking over the hills and seeing the water there. Now, I also hear tell that your dad used to get you guys in the car and drive you around, and does that have an effect on you still?
It was kind of what you did. You just went and hopped in the station wagon and went to go drive around in damage, which is probably, what we tell people never to do because recovery efforts are underway. You can just create traffic and get in the way, but it didn't stop us from doing it.
And when did you first kind of realize, you have all these memories, when did you first realize that, hey, I could do this for a career?
Probably in that June 8th. It was definitely preschool. So at that point, I'm kind of weighing the options of ice cream man versus weatherman, and not to be gender specific, but that's the way it was in the 70s. So ice cream seller, mobile ice cream seller versus weather person, maybe that is what we'd say now.
So that's really young. I switched my major in college, and you knew in kindergarten what you were going to be.
Absolutely, and yeah, the major is awful. It's a whole lot of mathematics, and I can't lie. I'm not going to lie and say that I was sitting in the third semester of calculus, thinking I've made a really bad mistake with my life. So.
See, I took I think maybe 2 semesters of calculus, and I went into sports for a long time, and now news. Don't need it at all, right?
And, that's kind of when I decided I wanted to go to grad school, I knew it was not going to be something left-brained and analytical like that. So I was like, I want to use the other side of my brain. I'm not going to do math anymore. When the math has more Greek letters than it does numbers,
it's too much.
Kind of out at that point.
You were a professional weather person before you were a graduate of undergrad. When you were going to OU, a very good meteorology school. Do you remember your first on-air experience? Were you any good when you first started?
No, but I don't think I'm any good now. To be honest, yeah, it was KXII in Sherman, Texas, and they had a morning weather person, an evening weather person, and wanted part-times because they didn't do weekend mornings. They just had a late evening newscast, 10 o'clock newscast on Saturday and Sunday. Hey, you want to do that? Sure. We can pay you $60 a day. Sweet. I didn't even think, all right, I've got to buy gas and tires and got to figure out a way to get some laundry done in between there too. So yeah, that was my senior year at OU, was making that circuit back to Sherman and driving back up. But I would do, driving at night, there's not another car on the road. I would do some crazy stuff, not wild crazy like reckless, but you'd play games. I'd put a lemon drop in my mouth and see how long I could go before I'd kind of forget it was there and crunch down on it. So, you could go hour and a half, 2 hours with one lemon drop if you tuck it away nice.
Yeah, you're lucky this was before the days where you could text people and stuff and do something actually dangerous. See, this is, you can pay attention to the road and still have lemon drop.
It was the most exciting part of the drive, was actually paying attention to the road.
Yeah. Now that you've done it for decades, you've been a chief for at Fox 23 since, I believe you started in early 2009.
Wow.
What do you think is what people don't understand about the job as meteorologist, also chief meteorologist?
It's, it's a lot of enabling your team to be better. It's a lot of communicating uncertainty because we don't know for certain. I mean, everybody else in the newscast gets basically to report what happened. OU won, OU lost, Oklahoma State won, Oklahoma State lost. There was a city council meeting, and I'm like, well, tomorrow we think this is going to happen. So it's communicating uncertainty and basically risk communication when there's severe weather too. That's, everybody processes it different. We can remember back to our families growing up, we would have a tornado warning and mom would want to do this and dad would want to do this. They both heard the exact same messaging and completely different perspectives on what that threat was. So yeah, I think that's fascinating too. And that's why part of what we do with team coverage during tornado warnings is sometimes another person even saying the same thing will resonate with somebody and get them to take action. Whereas with me just droning on, maybe it doesn't sink in that there's a threat. Well, meanwhile, Laura and Grogan or Phil can pretty much say the same nuts and bolts that I just said, but that resonates, that sinks in.
It's interesting you say people, viewers, listeners, take the same information and process it way differently. That happens. I'm a lifelong Oklahoman, been here since I was a kid. My wife is not from here. She's from Milwaukee, moved here for work before we even met. And whenever she hears a tornado warning, she reacts way differently than I do because I've lived here for decades upon decades. I remember when I was a kid, we walked out of the bowling alley in Bartlesville, and I looked down, and you could see a funnel cloud out there. Oh, that's cool. And you walk back in and keep playing in the arcade, which is not what we recommend to do. And definitely, I think people are better equipped now and understand better the safety precautions you need to meet. But do you kind of find that people who are lifelong Oklahomans, it's kind of harder to get them to worry about these things and be as worried as they should be, maybe?
Funny you should say that. That is my entire doctoral dissertation about how disaster subcultures affect readiness. And there's no doubt at all in Oklahoma, our disaster subculture is tornadoes. Everybody's familiar. Everybody thinks they know a lot about tornadoes. Many people do, but sometimes some of the things they know might not be terribly helpful. So, I'm also looking at hurricanes on the Gulf Coast and wildfires out west. But there are a lot of places with a little subculture, and we don't know if it helps or hurts. Just not been any research on that.
Do you have, for Oklahoma here, and we're mainly talking about tornadoes, as you said, do you have a specific of what you're talking about there where more knowledge of it may be a bad thing? Maybe not helpful.
Yeah, and I think you get into some of these risk perception issues like, well, the last 2 times we were under a tornado warning, nothing happened, so that's the pattern here. It always skips by my town until it doesn't. Maybe it's hail, let's drive under the overpass, or even tornado warning, let's go drive under the overpass, where further research, we've all seen the video from 1991 in Kansas where they got up under the girders. Well, that was great in that case. May 3rd, 1999, 2 people were killed seeking shelter under overpasses in central Oklahoma. It's often a wind tunnel where the wind's actually stronger because it's constricted through there. So that is probably the biggest instance where... Kind
of like put your thumb on the end of a hose, right?
Yeah,
Makes
absolutely.
the water come out faster.
Absolutely. A little fluid dynamics. Thank you, Nathan. Fluid dynamics in the podcast. Excellent.
I did take that as well in college, so there you go.
Gross.
What do you think maybe the biggest misconception about severe weather coverage is? Maybe not so much your job, but just coverage and how you guys do it.
I think there's this perception, and it's also rooted back into that normalcy. The last 2 or 3 times they talked about this, nothing happened. Or maybe if we're lucky, the last 20 times we talked about it, nothing happened. But I think there's this perception that we like to hear ourselves talk, and we keep saying the same thing over and over. Sometimes we say the same thing over and over because we don't have new information. Mm-hmm. And trust me, we hate it as much as the viewers do, I'm sure. I would rather be sitting there watching radar thinking it's not that bad than have to be on the air.
And there are times you literally have to be on the air.
Absolutely. Yeah. If there's going to be an imminent tornado or significant flash flood or it's big, severe, especially coming into Tulsa, if you get bigger than quarter-sized hail, then you're talking, if you can give people a little heads up to get cars under awnings or in garages, anything.
I think here's where a big misconception from my point of view, watching you guys do it and being on a TV station for decades upon decades. Whenever say there's a big NFL game on or something and you pop on, people get upset, or a season finale or a series finale.
Oh, they do? I hadn't noticed.
Yeah. And we get calls, we get emails. I'm sure you get messages on Facebook and everything else. And they think, well, I'm fine here. But regulation-wise, FCC-wise, if it's in our viewing area, McAllister is in danger, Tulsa's not. Well, we've got to go everywhere.
I mean, what we do is broadcasting. So broad, we cover a large area. So we are Sedan, Kansas TV station. We are Stigler's TV station. We're McAllister's TV station. We're Pawnee's TV station. I wish we could just direct what we're doing into Pawnee County when there's a Pawnee County warning, or just into Tulsa when there's a Tulsa warning. But that technology doesn't work that way. And while there are some technologies that would allow that to happen, everybody would have to buy that technology. So it gets expensive on both ends, both the ability for us to point cast right to Bartlesville or Pawnee, and then everybody there needs to have the equipment and the technology to receive that.
And the best we have so far is our phones, the apps, and
apps and WIA alerts are great, but it's just one of the tools.
Mm-hmm. Styles of meteorologists can vary vastly. Now, there are some who get...
Go on.
We can't name names here or anything.
Sure we can. You're Nathan.
But there's some that, get very excited and excitable and maybe want their audience to be a little more excited. You are more calm in your delivery and your team. Why have you decided to go with that theory?
It works better. Study after study with real human beings in any subject, not just severe weather, but calm is important. Contrived urgency, panic, it all dilutes what you're trying to do, and that is to get people to take protective action if they need to. Mm-hmm. But if you're in a panic, that gets their stress levels up. And the first thing in nearly any crisis, whatever it is, you always hear people say, stay calm. If I can stay calm, that's a big first step in that.
Do you feel any pressure being up there? Because for some storms, some people, this is life or death. The information you're giving them could save someone. If you gave the wrong, heavens forbid, information, they could cause them to be in more danger. Do you take a lot of pressure?
Oh, absolutely. Severe weather days, even leading up to severe weather days, I'm uptight and cranky and short and fussy because it's kind of the Alan Shepard prayer, which I won't say on the podcast because people can Google it all they want. But you realize from time to time that if you screw this up, somebody may die because of your screw up. That's quite a lot on your shoulders. So Alan Shepard prayer every time. But yeah, I'm definitely cranky and short and surly leading up to things like this. And then when it's over, put my feet up and, hope everything turned out okay.
And when you did it well and did it right, there's got to be a relief at the end of that.
Yeah. When you realize that you communicated as everything as good as you could, as best as you possibly could, and you enabled your team when we're doing team coverage to do that. And when everything goes smoothly, I always keep a notepad and a piece of paper and we'll jot, okay, we need to address this, or we need to fix this. This Chasers video was, we need to fix something, the transmission's jumpy or something. So I'm always writing stuff, and every now and then, especially middle and end of the season, you get most of the kinks worked out, and then you look down and realize you didn't write anything down. All right, that worked out pretty good tonight then. As good as it can be. Again, it's never perfect.
We talked about kind of memories and what stood out to you, weather events when you were a kid. How about as a professional, things you've covered, things you've been in front of the green screen for? Is there something that really kind of still sticks with you?
We've been really lucky in our area not to have super bad tornadoes, where if you pulled out a map and put a dot on Moore and put a dot on Joplin and then drew the line in between, Tulsa's halfway in the middle. It's just luck that these conditions haven't happened here. So when I look at events, Barnsdall, that's probably one that sticks in my head. A lot of winter storms do when we just get just an absolute buttload of snow or ice, because I just do not like snow or ice, just because I have to drive in it and nobody else can drive in it. If it was by myself driving, I'm cool with that. November 2016 or 17, we had a very long track violent tornado move from west of Salisaw up the east side of Lake Tenkiller, and it didn't lift until it got into Delaware County, but somehow managed to miss nearly every town along the way, which was amazing. And that kind of sticks out to me. The Owasso tornado in 2016, you couldn't drop a tornado of that strength that close to downtown Tulsa and hit less stuff. Sure, there was still some damage, especially in Owasso and Stone Canyon area. But if you looked at a map of population density and you wanted to drop an EF2 tornado that was going to be on the ground for 15 miles, you couldn't drop it in a path with fewer people in the way.
You talk about it being luck that Tulsa and Green Country hasn't been hit as much. And we went decades in the city of Tulsa before we had one hit, from the early 90s, I believe, until the one that hit Midtown area, correct? Some people out there don't think it's luck. They have these theories, the topography or the river, but we can clear that up right now, right?
Absolutely. There's nothing, when you're talking about little hills or a bend in the river, keep in mind, these supercell thunderstorms that spawn this stuff, 60,000 feet high. Mount Everest, 29,000 feet high. So you got to get 8,000 feet up with elevation on terrain and things before it starts to matter. Yeah, the hills here don't. So we may get a little extra rainfall here or a little extra rainfall there just from wind hitting Leonard Mountain and getting a little bit of an uplift. But, a couple 100-foot hill is nothing to a big supercell.
So there you go, everybody. Put those rumors to bed.
Yeah, the myths don't work. It's not a bend in the river. It's not a Native American legend. For years, you worked there too. For years, Waco thought that they were immune to tornadoes. And then 1953, they had a F5 tornado just wipe out downtown. And, but they were immune.
I think people don't like the idea of luck, or they've been lucky, and maybe scares them. So they would prefer the myth sometimes, right?
The Norman, I think it was the OU newspaper, did a whole article a while back about myths in Norman. And there's still a lot of people that say Norman's not going to hit by a tornado. Well, until it does. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of maddening. But people clamor for normalcy, and that's normalcy. We're justifying why things can just roll on, just being like today is going to be like tomorrow is going to be, because we like familiarity, we like routine. We're just humans. We're pattern people.
Since you've been doing this for decades, technology.
Thanks a lot.
Not to make you sound old, but technology has changed so much since you started the game here. How has that affected your job, and how much is predicting the weather better now?
Oh, by far, yeah. We're tons more accurate. We're tons sharper and more focused with stormcasting, tornado paths, tornado speed, towns in danger. And it's been a mix of technology and what people want. So we do a lot more coverage now. I remember back in the day, you'd grow up, hey, I'd watch the 10 o'clock news, and the late Don Woods would say, hey, tornado, just had reports of tornadoes in Oklahoma City. They're probably heading our way. Good night. We'll talk tomorrow. And there was no coverage. And then even when I started, we'd do cut-ins. Like, all right, the tornado warning for Osage County, whatever, it's moving up toward Pawhuska and toward Sunset Lake. Be back on in about another 15 minutes. And now you wouldn't think of that. It's all continuous. And with the graphics and radar and stuff, it's amazing. But
the reason you did that was because you didn't have the technology to pinpoint it more. So like every 15 minutes was about as good as you could get. Is that why you would do cut-ins?
And the whole county was a warning for a tornado warning. Now we're putting these little fairly tight stormcasts. We actually can manually plot the storm track on and continually update that with ETAs down to the minute. So yeah, the technology change, it went from man, I wish we had more information about what's happening here. And now, because we just had reflectivity and red is bad, right? And so now we've got dual pole radar. We can see if there's a tornado lofting debris up into the radar signal without a spotter near it. We've got velocity. We can see how strong something's rotating and correlate that with studies that, okay, if the rotation's this, that correlates with an EF2 or an EF3 or an EF4, which we were able to do when the Barnsdall tornado happened, not even before it hadn't even gotten close to Barnsdall. And we were able to say, okay, debris is being lofted above 20,000 feet. This is an EF3 or EF4. Rotational velocity, clearly in the EF4 range. And so we knew it was going to be bad over just the old style hook echo thing. So now it's kind of an information management problem. You can't look at it all, or you'd be paralyzed by you. If I looked at all the radar information, it would have already happened by the time I looked at it and analyzed it. So you have to know what information to look at, what information to shed. It's a load shed problem.
Social media, for your job as a meteorologist, there's got to be good and bad about it, right?
No, you think?
What's the bad?
Again, I think this goes back to communicating uncertainty. I think people want a yes or no answer. So when you say, there could be some showers moving in after 4 o'clock. Oh, it must be nice to be wrong 80% of the time and keep your job. All right, I get it. People want a deterministic yes or no. It will rain. It won't. But that's not the way weather works. We're not to that point yet. We may never be to that point of being completely certain about a lot of stuff. The bigger the magnitude of things, the more certain we are, like the Barnsdall tornado. That was a very high magnitude, and we were sure. I mean, we talked about that all the way to Bartlesville an hour before it got to Bartlesville. So the higher the magnitude, the better we are with it. And same for winter weather. It's just the little piddly ones. Those suck. I mean, looking at a wintry mix. Well, what's a wintry mix? Cold rain, ice, sleet, snow, all of the above. In some cases, yeah. So I think good because I can address people's questions. They can just shoot me a question on Twitter or X or whatever you call it now, or Facebook. They can reply to a comment, and they'll say, well, what about Colcord? Boom, I can answer. Yeah.
Two-way conversation now.
Yeah, was never able to do that before. The bad, I mean, you name it. It's just the same for the news people deal with it, medical people deal with it, car mechanics deal with it. Every field known to man deals with the bad of social media. And everybody thinks that's a validation to say something hateful sometimes. And boy, do they take advantage of that.
We'll put you on the spot here as a fortune teller.
Oh, okay.
10 years ago, we know what you could do as a meteorologist and how much better it is now. 10 years looking forward. What are we going to be able to do you think?
I think the future is short-term meteorology is going to be in that maybe 1 to 6 hour forecast. I think we'll be better at thunderstorms will develop here that while we're still in a blue sky. We're okay with that. Again, in the big days, because there are boundaries that we can see in the data. But maybe it's those pop-up thunderstorms in the summer. 2:30, our first pop-up thunderstorm is going to be close to Nowata. Maybe that's where we get. I think, again, the big stuff we're pretty good at now. We're really good at the big stuff. And I think the improvement's going to be in the margins of that. Your spin-up tornadoes, your EF0s, EF1s that come and go, like the Midtown one in Tulsa. I think we're going to get better at those. And timing-wise, and why this part of the line is not a threat, but this part is. But I think the improvement's going to be seen in the margins. And even temperature forecast, instead of upper 90s, we'll say 98. But Broken Arrow 99, and Bixby 97. And instead of just kind of throwing numbers down that, Bixby's close to the river, they might be a degree or two cooler, to actually know. that they're going to be a degree or two cooler. So I think in the margins is where we'll see the greatest improvement. But the big stuff, we haven't had an EF4 or EF5 tornado hit in this country in years that has not been in a tornado watch. That's pretty good. Yeah. But there's still this communication that needs to happen between a time scale of a watch and the time scale of a warning. For example, like a tornado warning. For us in a home or in this building, we may not need too much warning to get to a safe place. How long does it take us to run to the basement? A minute or two? If you're in a hospital, you're talking about evacuating patients, you need an hour, maybe longer. If you're a school and it's close to pickup time, you need to know whether you got to go out and get parents into the school or have an early dismissal and get them home. So I think this tailoring of impacts in that between the watch and warning time frame is going to be a big improvement at some point.
And we've, as a consumer of what you do, the how we get information is so much better than 10 years ago too. So maybe going forward, because now it doesn't matter where you are or if you're asleep and you didn't have a weather radio or anything, well, your phone's going off. No
it better.
So we do have some improvement there. Now, people who are big James Aydelott fans or watchers out there, they know you're a pilot. Mm-hmm. How long have you been a pilot?
I got my private pilot license in 1999, so quite a while. I just passed 1,000 hours. So
your love of flying, is it intertwined with your love of weather, do you think?
Yeah, because the forecasting ability helps because you can say, yeah, this is too windy to fly. This is going to suck. I'm not going up there because it's going to be bumpy. Or it's super hot. There's not a cloud in the sky. There's going to be thermals everywhere. It's going to be bumpy. I don't want to fly today.
Is there any correlation? Because I'm a better meteorologist because I'm a pilot or vice versa?
Maybe a little bit. I think it's all perspective that you kind of see, oh, yeah, it's almost like storm chasing. You see, oh, that's what when I see this on radar, that's what's actually really happening. So you get that a lot in aviation, and you certainly get a storm chasing. I don't get to storm chase that much, though. I miss it.
You used to storm chase.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're the chief. You got to be.
For some reason, they expect me to be here in front of the radar. I don't know.
You mentioned a couple of times you're working on your PhD. You just defended your dissertation recently. I guess a question a lot of people might have is why? Why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah, I ask myself that same question a lot. I'm just naturally curious. My parents always cultivated a kind of a basic curiosity. And it's, why I would say, well, something. And I remember my dad saying, well, why do you think it's that way? Well, that made me think. Well, I like it. So I've really enjoyed it. I knew going back, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, that it would not be in something super left brain or mathematical or analytical. And emergency management is a cool mix of the physical science that I know versus the social science and the sociology of how people react to weather and emergencies. And do I take action? Do I not take action? How do I perceive this threat? And there's a ton of stuff. This is such a growing field too.
And it's something also that's not meteorology, but it's something that can help you do your job as a meteorologist better, correct?
Absolutely. And, it's kept me from binge watching TV shows. It's like, no, I got to ride.
I've got 2 young kids to take care of that for me.
Yeah. And yeah, I remember hearing Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol off coming from the living room. But yeah, it's been good. I've liked it. It's helped curiosity. It helps me think. I think it helps me at work communicate better when we're on the air during weather crisis moments.
Another thing that big James Aydelott fans know, the dad jokes, man. You got lots of dad jokes. On air, you say them a lot. Off air, let me tell you, even more. What's the origin story of why do you do the dad jokes?
It's probably my dad. I've always liked wordplay and puns and things like that. So and I think my dad kind of encouraged that to watch a reaction from my mom. And so now I do that. And I've got 2 kids that kind of do it too. Heaven help them.
Well, we enjoy them, just so you know.
Okay.
Keep it up.
I mean, sometimes in the summer, you want to post something on social media to let people know you're still alive because there's not much weather happening. Like, oh, all right, I think let me come up with some sort of dad joke here.
Couple big picture, broader things here. You grew up watching Don Woods and others on TV here in Tulsa. Now you being the one that's giving the news, the weather, perhaps life-saving weather out to people. How does that affect you?
It's still strange. Even kind of, walking out of a store and somebody recognizes you, or we hire a new reporter and they say, I watched you growing up.
It's the double-edged sword there, huh?
Like, oh, growing up. Oh. So yeah, when you realize, wow, where did that time go?
It's got to be an honor, though.
It's neat. It's really cool. It's very edifying and rewarding, and kind of fulfills why you did this in the first place, to help people. And I think people that are successful in TV weather or in any field of weather are service-minded, that they're not doing it for themselves. The ones that are successful are doing it as a service to other people.
Is there a point in your career now that you look back on it, and I'm making you look back on it, you look at it, that was really rewarding?
I think being in a live truck in a blizzard in Kansas when I worked in Wichita and traffic was stopped, so we just fired up the coffee maker and started making coffee for people stuck in the traffic jam. I think that was cool. Some of the flood stuff has been to be able to get that kind of information to people where they can not only save themselves, but also save some property too. That's pretty cool.
If there's one thing you could tell people about Oklahoma weather, since we're here in Oklahoma, this is your audience, that maybe they don't understand or you wish they did understand, what would it be?
Winter weather is hard to forecast. It's such subtle little changes, and not just at the surface. So you can imagine 31 degrees versus 33 degrees. That's a big difference at the ground. But this actually works at every layer going up through the atmosphere too. So it's maddening. Winter weather is by far the hardest thing to forecast. So a difference between 80 and 82 on a severe weather day is normally pretty negligible. Not for winter weather. And it seems like we're always sitting close to 32, and it's always the race. Is it going to drop below 32 before the rain moves out and switches over to snow or ice or sleet or whatever it switches over to?
Yeah, so 1 degree here or there could be the difference between less than an inch of rain or 3 inches of snow or 2 inches of ice, all by that little.
I'm saying Broken Arrow could have all rain and think we're an idiot. Skytook has 3 inches of snow, thinks we nailed it. Bartlesville has 6 inches of snow, but we said 3 inches of snow, so they think we're an idiot too. So yeah, there are a lot of subtle changes, and that really matter in winter forecasting.
What do you think keeps you fascinated by the weather after all these years, these decades?
It's never the same. So even in the dead of summer, we make jokes. Well, it was another hot and muggy day in Oklahoma, heat index back above 105. But there's always something a little different in that. And I think that's pretty cool.
Now let's wrap it up with the question I love to ask the guests, which is, this topic has been what's on my mind. What's something on your mind lately that's been sitting there for the last week or two? It could be weather related or it could be totally different.
It's probably nothing too profound. I think I got to get my research approved by Oklahoma State so I can get it in the field and get this thing done. And then, you're hoping, as far as something more profound, you just hope you're leaving the world a little better place than you found it, and that you're equipping your kids to be good people. There's not much more to ask for than that.
Those are some quality goals.
I hope so. Hope we get them.
All right, James Aydelott, thanks for joining.
You bet.
Thanks again to Fox 23 Chief Meteorologist James Aydelott for joining me this week. It's easy to think about weather as just forecasts and radar images. Easy to make those meteorologist jokes we've all heard and James even mentioned. And easy to complain about severe weather warnings interrupting our favorite shows. But listening to James talk about the responsibility behind every warning and the human side of the job might just change your perspective. If you enjoyed this conversation, please listen and watch more episodes of One More Thing, including stories about Oklahoma, culture, sports, and the people behind the headlines, wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great week.